A South Carolina Congresswoman, a member of the House Oversight and Armed Forces Committees, Nancy Mace, is here. Congresswoman, good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. So what do you think was behind this? Have you ever seen an IRS agent show up at a person's house to talk about their taxes?
Well, this is absolutely outrageous. The White House constantly talks about protecting and saving democracy, and yet they're silent on this. And Yellen is clueless, quite frankly. Have you ever seen anything like it where a journalist, Matt Taibbi, on the same day he's to show up to testify before Congress, his house is raided by the IRS? And this testimony was about literally the weaponization of the federal government. And it's outrageous to see someone. Matt Taibbi is a hero, and I hope that he does not get intimidated by the IRS or this White House or this administration in the investigation that he's conducting right now.
No, wait a second. Was it a raid? I thought that they showed up and left him a note. I don't know that he was raided, but still, for an IRS agent to show up, was he trying to intimidate Matt Taibbi to shut up and stop talking about all of this collusion?
This, yeah, an attempted raid, at least, when you're showing up the same day this guy is supposed to testify before Congress on the weaponization of the government. They're literally at his doorstep. I can't think of anything more intimidating than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, Kevin, Cheryl, weigh in here.
No.
What are your thoughts on what this was about?
I will say Janet Yellen, can I give her a little bit of credit? She did say, no, that is not standard practice. This is what happens when you cross the IRS. You get a letter. They email you. They call you. Come down to the office. Let's have a meeting. And this was over 2 different tax return years, one of which had already been filed and accepted as 2018 taxes. I mean, Congresswoman, I mean, come on. I mean, this is such an overreach, and the IRS refuses to answer to any questions, whether it's from the media, whether it's from people like you.
Should we all be afraid that we better shut up? Because if we don't, we're going to feel the ire of the IRS?
I think we solved this problem very easily. We asked this agent to testify. What are you doing? Who told you to do this? Why did you go there? Is it standard procedure? Show us.
Are you going to do that, Congressman, in the Oversight Committee?
Well, I got to tell you, we are so overwhelmed by the number of investigations that need to be held to hold this administration accountable. It's almost like, where do you start? And I'm grateful that we have Jim Jordan on Judiciary. We have Jamie Comer on Oversight. There's so much to investigate. Yesterday, literally during our hearing with D.C. Council, denying that crimes were being committed, denying the crime wave in D.C., denying that they defunded the police. While they literally defunded the police, crime was happening. 2 people shot and a car was jacked during that hearing. And so it's like, where do you start?
Yeah, well, I mean,
so much.
I can tell you for sure the administration's priority is their climate change agenda. And even Democrats are wincing over it. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin says he was betrayed by the Biden administration over the Inflation Reduction Act. I had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he didn't go there in terms of saying anything negative about this president, but he's got an op-ed out this morning in the Journal. And he writes, instead of implementing the law as intended, unelected ideologues, bureaucrats, and appointees seem to be determined to violate and subvert the law to advance a partisan agenda. Congressman, is that the way you see it?
I do. In fact, when we had this debate last year when we were talking about the Inflation Reduction Act and how economists on both sides of the aisle all pretty much agreed that it wouldn't do anything to help our economy, that it wouldn't do anything to help inflation. Maybe after 7 to 10 years, you might see a 0.7% improvement in inflation. Was not going to do what it was intended to do or what the public was told it would do. And I'm grateful that we have people like Senator Manchin, who is willing to stand up to his own party and his own president and speak out on these issues that are affecting bread and butter, kitchen table issues for every hardworking American right now who can't make ends meet.
Yeah, I think he's hanging on to the Democrat Party by his fingernails at this point. Kevin, jump in here. You weigh in.
I look at it and say to myself, we're really defining the election issues 18 months from now. There's no question about it. Inflation is a mandate killer. It always has been. So whoever you are, regardless who's in the White House, when energy and food and protein prices go up past 4% and stay at 6%, that's core inflation right now.
Yeah, and it was at 9.1% at the peak
in June last year.
It's still, I don't don't care who you are. You pay more for eggs, you pay more for chicken, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you're reminded of that every time you go. You're on your way to the polling booth and you stop for gas and you have something for breakfast. You're reminded why you're voting. And that's where it takes its toll, so to speak.
And Congresswoman, the White House is expected to veto your bill, the Republican bill, the H.R. 1 energy bill, again, in the name of its climate change agenda.
No, that's right. And I do have great concern talking about 18 months from now. Republicans need to have a plan with regard to inflation, with regard to spending and the economy. And right now, we don't have that going into this debt ceiling fight this summer. And I hope that we can show the American people what responsible spending looks like, what budget reform looks like, because those issues matter. And I'm in a very purple swing district. The #1 issue in my district is inflation, followed by women's issues and then immigration. And I hope that we take the next 18 months, learn from the midterms in November, and come up with a strategy to message and policy that is winning for the American people and puts our country and its people first.
All right, we'll follow that. Congresswoman, it's good to see you. Thanks very much. Nancy Mace this morning.